Welcome to Green TV, the show dedicated to green, positive solutions and the third party and independent candidates that advocate for them. I'm Gail Farrell-Parker, your host, and we have with us today Dianne Blais, Indy Green candidate for Congress from Virginia's 10th Congressional District. Dianne is a businesswoman, a mother, a grandmother, and an emergency foster mom to over 100 children.
Not anymore, thank goodness. I was an emergency foster mother to over 100 children.
I see, great. and Dianne also has a degree in economics, which she obtained at the young age of 19,
Sure.
and is a leader in her community. She's having served as a leadership capacity for the PTA and the League of Women Voters for decades. In addition, Dianne and her son Gerard are the first mother and son to run concurrently for Congress in Virginia, at least as far as I know. Both are independent Greens. Welcome, Dianne.
Thank you.
Yeah. And Dianne, what are the issues that compelled you to run for office?
Well, there's numerous ones. I just did a 4-minute thing about why I'm running, and I said that it's basically because of how elections are run and because of how the federal budget is broken up. And so I originally got involved in politics a little bit more because of redistricting, gerrymandering, and that falls under the classification of elections. I think money and elections, the way the money by the corporate spending in politics is horrendous, and so I have the money, and the way the districts are broken up, the legislatures are choosing who they want to represent them, so they make the districts what they think are safe. Also, the spending on the federal budget is, I think that there's way too much money spent on defense in wars, and we really need to cut that back and spend it in this country on our people. And also we need to get that huge deficit we have down, and to spend our money more wisely. I think so much of the money we spend abroad, like for drones, on warfare, causes us to have so many enemies in this world.
I see. And we'll be spotlighting Dianne later on to hear more about her issues. But right now we'd like to find out a little bit about who is Dianne Blais. So how did you decide to run as an independent or third-party candidate, Dianne?
Well, I was thinking of running for a delegate, and I was just amazed at the amount of money that people spoke about that I needed to get, and the time they wanted me to spend on an election, asking for money. So not learning about the issues or not going out and talking to people, but just going out and asking for money. And I think that's a horrible way to spend so much of one's life. I don't want to be doing that. And so I immediately kind of withdrew from the two-party thing and ran as independent for delegate. And I thought, this is kind of where I am anyway. And then at the Independent Green Party, I was just pleased when they came and they said, thank you for running, because I think, it does take so much of your time and energy to run, and we need to be thankful for people when they do put themselves out and try to change the world to make it a better place.
Right.
So,
have there been any surprises? Is it what you thought or what you expected running for public office would be?
Pretty much. Although I'm just beginning this whole thing, so this is different. When I ran before, I kind of just dedicated my life to it for 6 months. And as I am not going to be accepting any money in this, I won't be spending so much time making brochures and buttons and making signs, and that took a lot of time, just ordering all these things and doing that. So I intend just to be there and just put my issues forth the best I can.
I see. Okay. Well, have you learned any more about the process by being a candidate as opposed to being a voter or an observer of the process?
Well, I think you're just amazed at how much work it is to do it, and how much time and how much people care. And I think people they have good intentions and they really mean the best, but I think they get overwhelmed with that, you know, a certain party has to win and the other party's all bad. And they get so involved in it, they think they'll go to any means to win, I think, oftentimes. And I think that's not good. But so basically I've just been, but overall I think that people who do this are doing it out of most of the time because they want to improve the world in which they live, and just are trying to do the best they can, and they feel their issues and they want to try to resolve them. And so
yes.
That's kind of what I'm doing.
Okay. Well, there are several other third parties in Virginia. Why did you choose the Independent Greens?
Well, actually, they kind of chose me. They asked me again and again, and you know, I could have run as an independent, I guess, but I would not have. And so, but the Independent Greens, I like the Green Party very much. I like Ralph Nader. I think that his running for president was, he had so many good points and good issues, and he just came out with a new book, and he had a gathering a few weeks ago, and I talked about it. So he's just, the way he's given his life to trying to do better for what he thinks, you know, to improve the United States, well, the world, is to me a model. So, and he was the first Green Party candidate for president. So the Green Party I decided that's kind of where I am. And the Independent Green Party was just the ones who spoke to me and got me going.
I see, okay. And did the Indy Greens help you to get on the ballot in Virginia?
Well, you did.
A loaded question there,
and,
yes. Yes.
That was so nice to have you come out one day, and you brought, and I enjoyed watching how you did things. And then also I had another person, Janet, she came and she helped me a couple times. And then my son came one day, once or twice, and helped me. So.
Yes, and how did the two of you decide to run for office concurrently? This is a historical event to have two concurrent family members, mother and son, run for office.
Well, I was thinking about it, and then I just mentioned that my son was interested in politics. And he has many of the same ideas. I mean, many things bother him that bother me. He doesn't think that he should be paying so much for these prisons. He did that we have way too many people in prison, and other things. So so I mentioned that, and before you knew it, they said, okay, well, how about him running too? So I thought, well, that'd be fun and interesting.
I see, yes. Okay, well, would you recommend other people run for office?
Yes, if you want to spend the time, and you really have to be willing to have people be a little negative about things you say or do or whatever, and just go with, you just have to shrug it off sometimes and go. But I think it's a good thing to do, indeed. Yes. I know that's why the Independent Green Party, it's one of the things they do want, more candidates, less apathy.
Yes, exactly. And how do you handle people who are negative and say, well, you can't win as an independent candidate? How do you handle those?
Well, I mean, statistically, they're correct. There are very few independent candidates that do win. But the important thing, I think, and this is why I'm running, is to put the issues out there. And so the two-party system tends to be run by corporate money. And so lots of issues they just won't deal with, and yet they need to be dealt with. So I think it's important to have these other voices.
Healthy conversation about the issues.
Yes, and so hopefully, even if they win, they will have had to deal with some of these issues, and people are aware of them. The people who just listen to the panels or discussions or whatever.
So you're winning by participating?
Yes, I think it's a good way to participate. In my whole life, I've been trying to participate in different ways, and this is one way that I'm trying to participate. I think hopefully it's, you know, will be as good as anything else I've done, so I think that's, you know, this is a good way to do it. And so far, getting the signatures was quite an experience, and I think running will be too.
Yes. Well, what is it, or is there anything else that you would like for your constituents or folks out there to know about you or your campaign?
Well, the environment's a major issue in our world, and the fact that our wars that some of the wars that we've started, we really need to get back. We need to be an example to people by how good we are, but not go in and with force. There's so many issues. I just think that we need to help. We need less homeless people. There is enough money that people can live, have a certain standard of living that everyone in the United States, in the world, we could have a standard of living and we just need to share the wealth and get a better way going for our people.
And do you see alternative energies like solar energy, wind energy, geothermal? Do you see those alternative energies as an alternative to war for oil?
Oh yes, that's what we have to work on. I mean, if we put a lot of effort into developing these things, we can do it. But a lot of it already exists, and we have to, like for trains, there's some really neat different kinds of trains that have been developed, and we need to keep working with that and get them in going.
All right, well, now let's view Dianne's spotlight as an independent Green candidate for the House of Representatives in Virginia's 10th Congressional District.
Hi, I'm Dianne Blais, the independent Green candidate for the U.S. House of Representatives in Virginia's 10th District. I've been a volunteer in many organizations and a businesswoman, a mother of 4 and a foster mother to over 100 children. Last year, I became a grandmother. I'm running for 2 main reasons: how the federal budget is spent and how elections are run in our country. It may seem right off that how elections are run in our country is insignificant compared to the importance of the federal budget, but I believe how elections are run currently has many long-standing negative effects. 3 areas need change: the money in politics, gerrymandering, and term limits. Politicians, at least those who are voted into office, are government workers and should accept no big money donations. I am running my campaign without accepting any money. Every corporate donation is basically a bribe, and although politicians say they are not swayed by these donations, consciously or subconsciously, they are. The effects of these bribes are seen in many bills that harm our people, especially our children. Legislators choosing the shape of their districts is a problem that many think is responsible for the partisan, dysfunctional Congress. Gerrymandering needs to be eliminated. And the last point about elections in the U.S. Congress, indeed even the state government, we need term limits. We want experienced people in Congress, but Congress was not meant to be a full-time job for life. The Independent Greens preach more trains, less traffic. We need to remove the barrier at the federal level that prevents the building of rail. The current policies say to municipal and state governments, if you build roads, the federal taxpayers will pay 80%. If you build rail, the federal taxpayers will pay 20%. The playing field should be leveled so that our municipal governments and state governments can solve transportation issues with mass transit. Rail returns $25 to the community for every $1 invested. Rail will make us safer, help us to have cleaner air and cleaner water. We will create new green jobs and reduce the debt by building rail. We need more trains, less traffic. We need to cut military spending and put that money into our people, our infrastructure, and paying off the national debt. The federal debt, now at $17.5 trillion, makes the interest payment on that debt the 3rd largest expense in the federal budget. The largest expense is the military. We are at peace. There is no reason that over half of the federal budget should be spent on defense. The incarceration rate in the United States of America is the highest in the world. While the United States represents about 5% of the world's population, it houses about 25% of the world's prisoners. We need to decrease our prison population and let nonviolent drug offenders support and be with their families. We can grow the economy, create new eco-jobs, cut dependence on foreign oil, balance the budget, and eventually pay off the federal debt. We live in a great country, but if elected, I, Dianne Blais, will work unceasingly to make it even better. Thank you.
Welcome back to Green TV. We're interviewing here with Dianne Blais, who is a candidate for U.S. Congress from Virginia's 10th Congressional District. Dianne, I know that you have done a lot of work with the PTA and with the League of Women Voters. And the League of Women Voters has a policy that does not allow independent and third-party candidates into the debates unless they poll at 15%. And some candidates, 15%.
Oh, okay.
And some candidates feel that they can't poll at 15% because they're not allowed into the debate. So what's your take on that? Is there a way to get the League of Women Voters to change their policy and allow more independents and third-party candidates into the debates?
Well, it has been discussed. I remember discussing it. I didn't think it was 15%. I actually thought it was something more like 10, and we've just discussed 5. But 15 is a pretty hard barrier to break, I have to admit, because you're not known, so you come in, and you know, typically you're, as an independent, and so I think. What do you think would be reasonable? 5%?
5% might be reasonable. To me, a more reasonable measure would be if they're a valid candidate on the ballot in Virginia, then they should be allowed into the debates. If they've met the statutory requirements, then what do you think the League's position would be on that? Or is there?
Well, every state has their own position, I would think, because so there's a state policy and then there's the national policy. So I don't know what all the different state policies are, but I think there was even, I think for national debates it's the same problem too. Like for president, people, well, as we know, Jill Stein was very upset that she was not in the national debate. So this thing needs to be worked out. But without a doubt, as a third-party member, candidate, I think that if you are on the ballot, you should be in the debate. So that's where I stand. But there are many people who don't think that. But I think hopefully we can try to change that.
That would be very good. And I know you've been in leadership positions for the PTA. And do you feel that that's prepared you to govern?
It's a help. It's, you know, you're dealing with so many issues and things come up and you have to deal with them. So I think it's all these things help in the long run towards leadership. Yes. I see.
Well, and it's very interesting to me that you've been a foster mother to over 100 children in need of care.
It was emergency. Short-term emergency foster care, like when they needed someplace, when things happen, what are they going to do with these kids? They have to bring them somewhere. So theoretically, we were not supposed to have children over 3 weeks while they found someplace what to do, where they would go, things like that. But every so often, things would happen, and they'd have to be longer. But pretty much they stuck with that rule, and sometimes it was just a few days.
I see. So 3 weeks is not long enough, I guess, to get really, really, really attached to the children. I would think that it would be hard to let them go once you've taken care of the children like that.
Yes, but you know that that's the case, and you want them long-term, the best place for them long-term.
Right.
So since I had 4 kids of my own, and the house was not really suited for, I knew that they had, we could not take many more kids, so it was a short stop.
And did that expose you to a lot of social issues or social injustices that need to be corrected?
Well, it exposed me to a lot of how people lived and dealing with social workers and dealing with the police and the problems people faced. So it was just kept everything moving right along, because I'd have to feed everybody and, you know, get them and deal with where they were. I mean, they had problems when they came to me. Yes. To our house, because like if their mother or father had just been shot, or if they had a nervous breakdown, or whatever caused them to come to us. So so it did kind of, you do see these issues, and then you start thinking we need to change things a little bit.
Heartbreaking issues. Yes,
many.
Okay, well, you know, it's been a pleasure having you on the show, Diane, and we look forward to hearing from you more about your campaign in the future. Do you have a way for folks to contact you, or that you would like to?
Well, we're working on the Blais website. I would like to have it with my son. My son kind of wants it to be his and then separate. I think it'd be really neat together. So we are still we're working on it, and I know but since I just got on the ballot a couple of weeks ago, I was waiting till that happened to me. So now we will get with it, and it's going to be Blais. If you can Google BLAIS, it should be coming up.
All right, and that will have a contact point or for volunteers if folks want to get involved with your campaign?
Oh yes, it would be my home phone number. They can just call me, and that would be great if anybody wants to do that.
All right, very good. Yeah. Well, thank you very much for being on the show today, Diane, and we look forward to having your son back, or having your son on here too. And we do thank you for all of the work that you've done.
Thank you for all the work you've done and you're doing.
Yes, and especially admirable for your work with children. It's really great. So
it's been a wonderful life.
Yeah.
It's wonderful living in the United States.
And we hope that you will join us again for Green TV, the show that's dedicated to green solutions and positive solutions and the candidates that advocate for them. Join us again.